so you could hold me.
Welcome to Skeptical Annette Searches for Sense in the Implausible, which we just call the Sassy Show.
That I can't wait to get to, 'cause I can't let it say go. Can't let it say go by without thanking you for the joy that you bring to my life. And
Lizard aliens, fractured souls, the Archon grid, 12 strands of DNA, and are the Borg really closing in? Woo-woo bullshit, or is truth really stranger than fiction? Join Annette Marie as she opens her skeptic's mind to see if there is any substance in the implausible realm explored on Wolf Spirit Radio. The Sassy Show is produced by Haggy Shack Radio's Colleen Kelly. This is the Wolf Spirit Media Network. And now your host, Sassy Annette.
Not a big deal. Let it wash all the bugs off my windshield. 'Cause you're showing me in you I'm free. And you're still the refuge that I've just got to get to.
Evening, everybody, or good morning for those of you that are on the other side of the world. I am Sassy Annette, and I want to get the stuff out of the way about how this is a listener-supported station, as you have just heard, and all of your monies that you have laying around doing absolutely nothing, or that the Gin have decided to give you. If you wanted to donate it to the station, that would be great. The time and energy that's put in is all volunteer. Nobody on here gets paid, and I know that our wonderful producer, Miss Colleen, does so much and spends so much time, and the equipment that she works on sometimes just decides to take a poop and not work on her when she needs it to. So any and all monies that can come in are definitely greatly appreciated. And today, Miss Colleen, are you there?
I am.
I noticed last week there were some questions that came in that I did not see because I am evidently not able to multitask while I do this because I'm concentrating on what my guest says and I don't read the chats at the same time. So if a question comes in, even if you put it in our Skype chat, would you mind just bursting in and saying what the question is? Because I don't even look at that, to tell you the truth.
How you're supposed to.
Yeah, well, I try.
See, I don't want to interrupt your conversations that you're having. So, because you know that's rude. But anyway, well, I will attempt.
Okay. You can just say, boop, or go beep, beep, and
beep,
that'll
beep.
let me know that you got something going on. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, you can beep me.
Okay.
Today we are very lucky to have Miss Lee Brown with us. She has graciously decided that she will be on my show, and we talked and got it all together today because I had a hell of a week at work, I'm not going to lie, and I didn't even think about the show all week. I spoke with her this morning, and I think this is going to be a really good show. She has a website. It is www.energyweaver.com. And Lee is a metaphysician, I hope I said that right, in general practice, currently based in Atlanta, Georgia. She is a longtime teacher, body worker, healing practitioner, numerologist, empathy, channel for universal energy guides, and more. She is certified as a hypnotherapist through the American Institute of Hypnotherapy, a certified Reiki master, and trained and ordained pastor with the Alliance of Divine Love, and International Church based in West Palm, Florida. She was previously ordained with the ULS. So she has all kinds of wonderful stuff on her website. I was telling her I loved it because when you read it, it's very reader-friendly and easy to get through. And she has all kinds of stuff, so definitely check out her website. And Lee, you with us?
I'm right here, Annette. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Thank you.
It's been one
a
of
busy
those
day,
days.
and I appreciate it.
Well, it's been one of those days. I'm some friends just dropped in. I was supposed to do dinner with them, but they got sideways. And they said, well, remember, there's like 5 planets in retrograde, and I can't keep track of astrology. So I thought that was a great thing to blame everything being the exact opposite of what it was supposed to be today. So,
all right, that works for me. We'll take it.
Out.
Well, let's see. Let's talk about the life regressions. Let's talk a little bit about that and get your take on it, because we had talked on a couple other shows about life regressions, and one of the things that makes me a little crazy is when people talk about, oh yeah, I was Napoleon in another life, or I was Cleopatra, Queen of Denial, you know, and people don't come on and say, oh yeah, I was the chambermaid in this nobody's house and they treated me like crap. It's just, you know, everybody has to be somebody famous, or it just, what's your take on all of that?
Well, if we all were so famous, it seems like we'd still be famous this time, but you know, you and I touched briefly on that this morning, and we were talking about a lot of folks will use hypnosis to do regressions, and there are other folks that really just do a more intense form of meditation, which, to be honest, is a form of hypnosis in its own self. When you have someone talking you in and talking you into that quiet space where you can kind of walk away from this life and tap into another. I think that you wanted me to speak on hypnosis to a large degree, and I said it's one of what I consider my lesser tools, because I find that it can be a very helpful tool, but many times I think it's more helpful if we go through the process of clearing the energies ourselves rather than just, you know, having them sort of deleted. I think that hypnosis can be a real helpful tool. And for past life regression, I think it's challenging for us to step outside of our present life when it's the one we've agreed to pay attention to. I believe when we come in for a lifetime, we make certain agreements on a soul level, almost like when you go into a movie theater and you agree to suspend reality for that next 2 hours and to really buy into whatever's happening on that screen. So when we decide to come do a lifetime and to learn and have certain experiences, and I believe, you know, the reason we do that, of course, is like school, but also because as we become more, then God becomes more. As we're exploring the options, we're always coming up with new. When you get 10 people doing one project, they're going to do it 10 different ways, if not more. So I find that we're really supposed to focus in this lifetime, so it may take a little effort to suspend the belief in the current space-time sequence and step into another. There are a lot of folks that believe everything's happening at the same time. I have trouble wrapping my mind around that. I'm willing to accept it, that it's a belief system. And so instead of actually going back to a lifetime, we're just stepping over a timeline into another part of our soul growth. Past life regressions can be helpful when we're sort of struggling with something, I think. I do know a lot of people do it just like they'd watch a TV show. They just want to be entertained, or they want to, you know, as you say, a lot of times what they're hoping for is one of those lifetimes where they might have been great or controversial or admired or vilified, depending. I mean, I'm sure there are folks who have visions of being Napoleon or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy accused me one time of being the high priest of Lemuria who put my finger on the button and blew up Atlantis. And I thought, you know, I could see me doing that. You know, you tell people and you tell people and you tell people, and sooner or later you got to push that button, you know?
Yeah, okay, take this if you don't want to listen to me and do it my way.
Yeah, well, they were causing an awful lot of trouble. You know, they were getting all technological, and they were forgetting about the other aspects of life, the planet and individuals, and a lot of what's going on right now. And so, you know, I kind of want to believe they did it to themselves. They just, you know, they were using the crystals And what are we doing now? We're using the crystals for our radios and our computers and. So I think for me, I draw a lot of comparisons, and quite a few folks that are involved in metaphysics kind of can hearken to lifetimes in Atlantis or Lemuria or wherever. I gotta suspect that Atlantis is awfully big because of so many people, believing that was a part of their life paths. But one of the things I mentioned to you this morning, I believe that past life regressions can be very helpful when we hit a stumbling block that we seem to think we just can't get past. And so that, I many years ago went to someone who focuses on past life regression. She didn't call herself I call it hypnoterrorism, a hypnoterrorist. She called it all guided meditation. And, one of the challenges that a lot of us face is that we learn through opposition rather than through following along. And when someone does a guided meditation for a past life, they tend to tell you a story till they step you into the other lifetime. Most of the time it has something to do with crossing over a lake or a river. It entails, I've found that the people that do it most effectively actually have you look at your feet first when they've crossed you over into the other life, if you will, because they find it's not as scary to us on an unconscious level to look at our shoes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what's on our feet will be a key to understanding the time frame that we're in. And so I had this wonderful woman that I put through hell, basically. I think it took her 2.5 hours to actually get me there and back, who would make a comment, like, see the house, and I would say, it's not a house, it's a farm. Or she'd say, see such and such, and I'd have to contradict her each time and describe what I was actually seeing or envisioning. I found the whole thing very peculiar because I am not clairvoyant. I don't usually see images in my mind. I experience things, feel things, get things. And again, this is one of the challenges with meditation. We can come back to it because a lot of people don't see things and their mind just sort of locks up on them when they're doing or being talked through a meditation. But anyway, I went because, like many people at that time, and today, I had been in a very intense relationship and was having a difficult time letting go of the connection because I knew it was a soul connection. And so I went in the hopes that I would find the lifetime that had me linked to this person and get over it, However, what I found instead was one of the keys to who I am. This lifetime, it turned out I was a farmer, but one that was very respected, and that I had lived back in more pioneerish times. And as a young person, I'd always wanted to travel. I knew I'd have to take over the farm one day because my father had this huge farm and was respected in the community. And he had promised me I could go travel. And I was his eldest son. And I was very much looking forward to it. But on my 18th birthday, when I was supposed to be allowed to go off into the world, he killed himself and saddled me with this whole farm and my mother and my younger brothers. And so I wound up having to be very responsible and saddled with lots of things and people who were depending on me and animals that needed attention. And I built a very profitable farm, but I made certain that all of my brothers got a chance to travel beforehand. And I pretty much lived my whole life taking care of and becoming, one of the deacons in the church and the person that the people in the town would come to. And always believing that at some point I would get to travel. But when I finally was able to turn the farm over to my sons, my wife's sister needed caring for, so we moved into town and I cared for her and then finally passed on myself. So the lifetime was a good lifetime, but it showed me why I never really wanted to own anything. I haven't really wanted to, the only thing I've ever really wanted to own was a car that would get me where I wanted to go.
You didn't want to be tied down to anything.
Yes, and I have never had the desire to marry and have children and all of that. So it is a very helpful tool to come to understand ourselves, but a lot of folks, like I said, it's entertainment, and that's fine in and of itself, but there are others that it becomes sort of an ego game. I don't think that it is, it's good to know that information, but you can't spend this lifetime worrying about that farm. You with me?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Years and years ago, there was a entity known as Lazarus that was being channeled by a fellow named Jack Purcell. And he was given a talk, and there was time where folks could ask questions, and someone in the audience asked him, they said they really like Earth Plane Third Dimension, and they wanted to know after they did all their lifetimes of exploring and learning and growing, did they really have to go somewhere else, or could they keep coming back here? And Lazarus likened it to when we're small children and we're just born and we find our bodies fascinating, so much so that like we suck on our toe for hours on end. And as we grow older, we and move into a greater part of who we are, we find our first tricycle and then eventually a bicycle, and then we discover the other sex, and then we discover all of the things as we grow older. But his comment was that no matter what, no matter where, we always have the option to suck our toe. And so I have a bad habit sometimes of thinking of some things as toe sucking.
I don't know. I don't think I can reach my toe anymore.
I find that things like, getting too fixated in before can become a real disruptive form of toe sucking. I think that be here now is probably one of the most important things that we can do, because this is the lifetime that our consciousness is focused in, no matter what the rest of our soul's consciousness is doing at other times. I don't know that all of it is particularly linear, though the sense of regression tends to make one think that it's linear, that lifetime came before this lifetime because the time frame was thus and so. I'm not sure. Like you said, I get all caught in that loop of everything happening at the same time. So, no, I can't imagine that we were all that one person, but I can imagine that a lot of folks have parts of that personality in them that they either want to bring out or want to own.
Yeah, and I think we were talking with Nancy on one of the shows, I can't remember which one, and we were talking about past lives, and it came up that maybe, a person who thought they were Cleopatra maybe was someone who was close to Cleopatra, so was watching that life unfold, and that's why they had those memories. So that kind of makes sense to me then, thinking because they saw the whole thing, unfold, that, this must have been my life, even though, they were the maid or whatever. So that kind of made some sense to me too. So that's kind of interesting. And I sometimes have a hard time with it because with my upbringing, I'm a Christian and I have a very strong belief in God, and it's sometimes difficult for me to step away from that or add to the knowledge that I think or thought I had. I still believe in God and I worship God, and I don't think I need to go through other people in order to do that, or other beings that maybe were created by God. And it sometimes, I don't know if hinder is the right word or not, but they sometimes work against each other when people bring up other dimensions and stuff. Yeah, I believe it's possible, but I think as you and I were talking earlier, I'm having enough trouble living in this reality and this third dimensional life to start thinking about lizard people and different lives I might have led that I don't see how it affects how I am right now. So I'm still trying to put all of the pieces together.
Yeah. One of the things that may be of service to you in that, years and years ago, you're talking about maybe being in that vicinity brought this to mind. When I was a teenager, I was given the nickname Lee because one of my fellow scouts said that I had a way of rallying the troops to do things they didn't think they wanted to do in the first place. And so I convinced my entire senior Girl Scout troop that they wanted to go to Savannah and to raise the funds to do that. And with Girl Scouts in Savannah, Juliet Gordon Low is the founder of Girl Scouts. And I always admired her and felt drawn to her. And so my parents, when we went on a vacation to Disney World, gave me the opportunity to go to her birthplace in Savannah, which is why I wanted to go back to Savannah bad enough to convince a troop of girls they wanted to go too. And when I was there with the troop, you're given the opportunity to actually be there and to learn different things to a greater degree than regular tourists. And so we're in this old Savannah building, and I was getting very agitated because certain things were not where they were supposed to be. Now, what in the world this lifetime made me think I knew where her hat was supposed to be or where the dollhouse was supposed to be? I don't know. But we found it interesting that I knew how to waltz. Now, I didn't take dance lessons as a child, but when they went to teach us to waltz, I already knew how to waltz. And then they were going to teach us how to spin wool. And somehow I already knew how to spin wool. And I got so agitated about the hat, Juliet's hat being in the wrong place, or they called her Daisy back then. I was so agitated about her hat not being where it was supposed to be and the dollhouse not being where it was supposed to be that they referred me to one of the older docents that's there. Mm-hmm. And when they checked with her, I was correct. They had to move these things out of the way because tourists kept trying the hat on, and it was starting to have more wear and tear than they cared for. And the dollhouse, the same thing. People kept messing with it. So these two items, the two that I remember at this time, it was more than that at the time, but I was pretty upset about the whole thing. But at that time, they were explained to me that, yes, I was absolutely correct, that the hat did belong at a certain place and it was always kept there, but that they had to, for the safety of the items, they had to move them into the locations they were at.
Oh, wow. That's pretty funny.
I don't think I was Juliet Gordon Low, though I would not mind claiming that at all. This was an amazing woman. And I will say this, I mean, I became a Girl Scout as a brownie, and I kept going until I won the God Home Country Award and then became a leader. And it always felt like who I was. And I say Juliet Gordon Low was the founder of Girl Scouting. And I have a very strong desire, always have, to support girls and women in becoming who they can be. And that was her point in life. Again, I don't think I was her. Much like you're saying, I think I was one of her friends, mm-hmm. maybe a family member who was close to her.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I like that. I can accept that more than having, 50 people who were Napoleon. So it fits better in my boxes in my mind.
Yeah. And again, I have this belief that our soul is a lot bigger than we are. I almost see us as little puppets of our soul, little smaller S selves. And our soul has a better understanding of God's plan than we do.
Yes.
And of the soul's place in God's plan. And so we're here just trying to figure out how to move ahead and to be in alignment with that plan, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've got these trippy little human bodies to drag around and to work around and to, you know, hopefully hone into vehicles that we can use. And so, you know, our soul, you know, we have to gather the bits together from somewhere. So whether it's happening all at the same time or whether it's happening over linear process like we believe on Earth plane, I don't know. But that was a very real experience for me, and I have had other experiences where I have no idea where something came from. I think that's one of the things I like about numerology a lot, is it talks about soul growth and growing through the different lifetimes and taking on certain challenges, and then the next lifetime you build on it. It's not that you consciously remember, but instead of having to start all over again, you know, it's all in there somewhere. Like when you prune a tree back in the winter, it grows to the same size and more, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm always amazed at crepe myrtles because I cut them down in the fall, and the next year they become who they were and even more. And I think that's maybe like we are, and I think that is part of God's plan.
Yeah. That's a great segue to talk about the numerology part, because I find it very interesting how certain numbers in our lives. Last week, Walt was on with us, Walt Silva, and he took down, you know, my birth date and the time I was born, the day of the week, and some other information I can't remember what all, and he started telling me all these different things about myself just from those numbers that he took. And I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, holy crap, how does he know all this just from that? It just astounded me. And it was spot on. So.
Yeah, I don't, earlier I was thinking, oh my goodness, we don't have Walt to sit back and listen to while we gather our thoughts this week. I was able to listen to part of the show last week. Which is what tickled me and had me say to Nance, you know, if she needs somebody, you know, you tap me, and if I can make it, I will. And not knowing it was going to be this week, but everything in divine right order, they say.
Uh-huh.
Now, numerology is very different from what Walt does, and I like these kind of things. Now, numerology, and I think pretty much what Walt does too, can't speak to it, to be very honest, because I've only had a few experiences of him tapping it, or what I call reading my beads. He was doing it on the radio when I was doing their numerology one with Nance and him. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm boring the crap out of everybody being told all my stuff. Excuse me, I was hoping that wouldn't happen.
Good.
But numerology is considered a science rather than a divination, because with science, you get repeatable results. And so with numerology, you add 1 and 1, you're going to get 2. Now, there are basic interpretations, and then myself, I said I've done over 90,000 readings, so I use it more as a segue into connecting into more information. But basically, you know, you can look in, one of my favorite books is the Metaphysical Handbook. And it has a chapter on numerology, which gives you enough to really just get a feel for it. But the concept behind numerology, again, it says that we live many, many lifetimes, and there's sort of a progression of soul. And we first learn about who we are. And once we get an understanding of who we are on the planet, then we build on that the next time, and we find out who you and I are together. And then after we come to understand that, then we get into the concept of we, where we interact with lots of people and come to know who we are within the group. And then we then work on tenacity and stability and groundedness, and then we explore some more. And then the next group of times we go around, we look at community consciousness and looking at the wider understanding. And then we start moving back to spirit in our thinking and in our being, and we start looking into the whys of things and sharing what we've learned with others. And then we do lifetimes where we pull it all together and create successes on all levels. And then we go through testing lifetimes. And once we complete them, we can either come back and help, which I call the glutton for punishment lifetimes.
Yeah.
Or we can go back and study, or we can go somewhere else and study, because, you know, if God's infinite, then everything is available. You know, everything, the cosmos. I mean, it would be the height of ego to think that, you know, we human beings are the only game in town, you know, and that Earth plane, third dimension, is the only school that's available to us as souls to expand and to allow even greater expansion for God. You know, that part always trips me up just a tiny bit, because if God is everything already, but I think that we're the entertainment sometimes for God, you know.
I know we are, because I know I do things, and he's looking down at me, shaking his head like, oh my Lord, girl, what are you doing? I know he does.
Yeah, we're the comic relief.
Yeah.
So you commented. I know that part of why this is on your adventure, this radio show, is for you to come to understand all of this and your place in it and all of the other stuff. But, you know, we'll do a little knee jerk here. Go ahead and give me your birthday if you don't mind saying it out publicly.
July 2nd, 1969.
Well, the first place I'll go with you is what I say to every other cancer. Good Lord, another bleeding heart cancer.
I lost my bleeding heart. I kicked her out. I just brought her back, so we'll see what happens now.
I'll say.
That was something I went through with Walt.
Yeah. I'm a cancer too, and I believe Nancy is also. I'm not going to swear to it. And interestingly enough, you carry the same numerological energy as myself.
Wow.
And I call this a knee jerk, because with your full name, with all sorts of other information, I can do a far more in-depth setup. But you actually have a relatively old soul. You're a part of that group where I said that you're here, moving back towards spirit, and you're here to share information with others. You have what would be described as a 347 frequency. Sevens are teachers and healers and counselors and social workers and artists and designers, but almost always with an eye to making things better. The 3 and the 4 indicate that you have a very, very creative side and a very playful side, and you also have a very stubborn, very grounded, very focused purity side. And so blending those two is part of the challenge for the 7. Most of the time that's why we end up as teachers and counselors and designers and all of that, because you have to find a way to let that creative be a part of the work, or to have enough of the creative outside of the work to even want to do the work. So it's definitely a balancing act, being a 347. And the thing is that even you have to see a bigger purpose to all of it. You know, normally a 347 won't just sit and color in the coloring book. They'd be more likely to design a sign. You know, there's the thought of purpose and right and wrong, and wanting to move into a higher level of understanding. Now, at the moment, you are actually in a major transition. You're literally between layers in your life right now. Major transitions are bridges. They're designed to move us from one phase of our life into the next phase. According to numerology, every 8 to 10 years, we all shift layers in our lives. in spirit, we know that you can't serve two masters. Whenever you do something, something's going to take a primary position and something's going to take a secondary position.
Right.
If you don't do that, neither thing succeeds. So according to numerology, when we're putting together our life path, we set up one layer to focus in one direction and the next layer to focus in another. Some of the directions that we focus on primarily are financial and third dimensional security. And then the other primary one is relationships, emotional connections. So we call it paid and laid or money and honey.
Paid and laid. I like that. I like that a lot. I need to get to the laid part, so let's keep going.
When do I get paid and when do I get laid? One of my friends says that I'm not that kind of a reverend, so I'm going to let it slide.
I like your kind of reverend.
There you go. Dear Reverend.
Yes.
The layer you're coming out of has been a financial layer where you've had to face a lot of challenges around your third dimensional security, stability, and financial issues. Tell me if I'm lying.
No, you're absolutely correct.
And right now you're trying to wrap up a whole lot of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in the endings phase of that layer. Right now it's about letting go and clearing and releasing and finishing. Usually I send my students up into the North Georgia mountains to a place called Dahlonega where there's this gorgeous waterfall in State Park when they're in a major transition. And I have them spend 2 days up there with no iPads, pods, phone stuff, none of that. No distractions except a pad and pencil. And I have them think about the next 8 to 10 years of their life and to really daydream. Just let their mind just roam free around if it could be any way you want it to be, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come back to their day-to-day life, I have them figure out what doesn't fit that new picture and to work on eliminating it. Because right now is about clearing out, releasing, and letting go. And you need to make holes. It's about making room in your life for the new energy to come in. In a major transition, people are liable to change jobs, cars, friends, relationships, move. Usually 3 out of those 5 things will go through a transition, if not all 5. And they say it's a matter of making room in your life for the new energy to come in. So they say the universe abhors a vacuum. So you make room, and then the new energy starts coming in. Now, a lot of the books you read about numerology will tell you that people's energy shifts in the winter solstice or on their birthdays. I disagree. Having spent a very long time doing reading after reading after reading after reading, I believe that most people's energy shifts in the fall. And it may be societal, because that's when we went to school. We stopped being a 3rd grader, and all of a sudden we're 4th graders, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the fall, you'll pretty much step over into the tippy-toe beginning of a new layer of your life. And this next layer would be a relationship layer, if I'm seeing correctly. And so for the next 8 to 10 years of your life, the challenges and pluses and minuses, because they're all the same, will be on interactions with other people. And usually when that shift happens, the financial stuff settles down. I mean, we still have to give it some attention. Like I said, there's a primary and a secondary focus. But the work and the money and all that sort of settles down so it can become a secondary focus, and you can put energy toward the emotional realm.
Okay, that comes together a lot with a lot of the different things that, like Walt's been saying. It's kind of odd to me how spot on you can all be and how it all meshes together at the same time. It's kind of freaky and woo-woo shit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's adding up, baby girl. All I did was that. I added 2, 7, plus 1, plus 9, plus 6, plus 9, and it came to 34. Now, I've been known to add wrong. But even then, I think God has a hand in it because I think that that's the information the person's supposed to get.
Yeah.
But the 34 and 7, and the gist of what I said you can find in any book on numerology. That's what I like about it. I mean, astrology, you got to know about moons and stars and planets and where they're at and all that. Numerology, add them together. You know, there you are.
Yeah. We do have a question, it looks like.
Absolutely.
From TJ.
Beep, beep.
And it's, yep, beep, beep. And he says, God does have a warped sense of humor with a question mark. So I'm thinking that does. Personally, I say he has a very good sense of humor and can find humor in just about anything would be my answer. What do you think?
With some of the things going on, I think it's a little of both.
Yeah.
But I absolutely agree. I think there's humor in almost everything. I believe that there is actually love in everything, even some of the most horrendous things. I look at, like, I was in Florida for Hurricane Andrew and, dating myself again. And I had a very hard time being in Florida the first year I was there because people seemed very harsh with each other and the horn blowing and, you know, everybody felt like me first. And, I was astonished after Hurricane Andrew at how kind people were to each other. And I about dropped my jaw when I watched people waiting at red lights that weren't working to allow everyone to turn and things like that. I think that, you know, a lot of the adversity is for us to bring up our best sides. But I just went way off from humor. But I started thinking about trying to find humor in the really truly warped things that happen on this planet. And as I said, I went right to love instead. But I think we provide plenty of entertainment. I truly do. I
do agree with that, and I agree with the love part of it, and that, you know, he is love. It's the epitome, he, she, whichever you see God as, is the epitome of love, and that's what everything needs to come down to. I mean, think how fabulous everything would be if we could just love one another. There wouldn't be all of the hurts and the laws. We wouldn't even need the laws if it was all about the love. It's just, it would be a utopia, but he also gave us free will.
Yeah. I think that's in large part what being in spirit is about. In third dimension, we're testing ourselves. You can't have mountains without valleys. And I think that, you know, I was given the image one time that this is a big bet between God and Satan. Satan was actually, you know, God's favorite angel. Mm-hmm. And, I can just see God and Satan standing there saying, I'll bet you that if you give them free will, they're just going to run amok and be selfish and me. And God's saying, no, they'll find their way to love. And so, you know, Satan's like, I'll take that bet, you know. And so we're caught in this big bet. And, you know, it's up to us, you know, which way we're going to walk. So, you know, talk about humor, not only humor, but a bet in God. And I think we're the ones who are being bet on whether we're going to, you know, find a way to be good to each other or not. But it's hard to, in spirit, one of the purposes is in third dimension is to slow things down and to go through experiences and to really test the metal. And I say that the image you speak of, I think, is what we do experience when we're not in these drippy little bodies. But I think these drippy little bodies are our opportunity to demonstrate what we think we know about ourselves.
Demonstrate what? Yeah. And all of the different experiences that we go through and the lessons that we have to learn all over again. Sometimes in the same life all over again, because some of us are really, really stubborn.
You know, you and I had that brief discussion this morning about God, and I also commented on the Juliet Lowe and the women things and stuff, and a moment ago you said he, she. I hold a very strong vision of Mother, Father, God for myself, because I feel like women have gotten a really raw deal in religion. I like the idea of this big, wonderful guy up there, but I also, know that if God's everything, then God's also this wonderful, nurturing mother energy. And I feel like too many women have been, have thought less than of themselves because of having their deity be male. It's something I work with all the time, and I'd say I think there's room for all of it. I'm in absolute agreement with you about there having to be intermediaries, because I think that we have in every one of us a big old spark of God, and that's that monadic spark, or that connection that is, what keeps us striving and looking forward. So,
yeah, mom right now is reading a book on Tuesdays. She does a Dolly Reads for You, and she's reading The Shack. Have you read that? I can't remember the name of who wrote it, but it's this fabulous book. It's probably the most powerful book I've ever read, and I read a lot of books. Most of it's smut, but some of it's not. And it has this man, the main character, who went through this horrible, horrible sadness, something that had happened to his daughter, and God invites him to the shack, where he meets God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus, and God is portrayed as this big black woman, and he's called Papa, and the Holy Spirit is this gardener that is just always working on our gardens, and our gardens are always changing, and then it has Jesus, the carpenter, so he's just kind of this normal guy to talk to, and the way that in that book everything they are described is exactly how I've always pictured it, and pictured the interaction between them, and I find it to be just an amazing book. And I found out this week they're making it into a movie that's coming out November 18th.
Very cool.
Yes, it's just, and why certain things happen, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. And so I try to listen at work, and usually I end up having to listen to it in the archives, which if you get $5 a week, you can get all of the wonderful archives, and you can listen to the story from the beginning. And The Shack was written by William Paul Young. And, I think it's the third day or the third or fourth week that she's been reading this book, and it's really good. It's really, really good. But I don't know, I didn't mean to get off on The Shack and all of the religion thing, but I think it's important, and it's part of who I am. So
yep.
I guess I'm not gonna apologize for it. Maybe I was led to say it for some reason.
Then stop saying I'm sorry.
See, I almost said it again, damn it.
That's one thing we're working on, calling you tickling me. I have a lot of folks around me that it's sort of it's just a knee-jerk reaction. I'm sorry. Many years ago, I studied with a fellow named Dr. Byron Gentry, who taught how to do focused thought spinal realignments from wherever you are to wherever you choose to send them. He was my chiropractor. He was in Oklahoma, and he adjusted me in Atlanta regularly. It was wonderful, best chiropractic adjustments I ever had. But he taught us kinesiology, of course, and I had someone on the table, and I had a bunch of I'm sorry people around me, and I said, watch what happens when I didn't tell them I was doing that one, but I demonstrate how just the vibration of, see, when something is negative for us, the weak side of our body draws up. Every cell in our body cringes when we are around a lie and untruth, something that is negative to our being, anger, frustration. And so when you project that thought to someone, or in my case, what I do is I write it on a piece of paper, and I don't let people know what I'm doing. And one of the pages I stuck on someone that day was sorry, the word sorry. And immediately there was not a millisecond of hesitation. The weak side of that person's body drew up, and you could see a good 2-inch difference from heel to heel on their foot. I've been hearing a lot more of I apologize, excuse me. I don't hear I'm sorry quite so much anymore. Every time we say I'm sorry, we actually debilitate our body because our body thinks we're in the wrong when most of the time it was just, an uncertainty or a misstep or, so that's wonderful that you brought that up and that Colleen got on you because if that's one thing we left with people was to find 100 other ways to say that word and your body will thank you.
I hadn't heard that before in that way, but I remember I had a boss when I worked at PGT, Julie Heinzman. She was a great boss. And I used to say I'm sorry all the time. I usually say I apologize or excuse me. But she caught me saying I'm sorry, and she told me that. She said don't say you're sorry for stuff. Say you apologize or you can say excuse me, just don't say you're sorry because that makes it a negative for you. Mm-hmm. But I didn't hear it the way that you just put it, and that makes a lot of sense.
I didn't explain it as well as I could have, but it is, they say every cell in your body will cringe every time that word comes out. And there are other words. I mean, one of my favorite things to demonstrate with is a piece of aluminum foil. Very few people realize that our bodies are absolutely allergic to aluminum. And yet look how much aluminum is around us. But the moment I put aluminum on anyone, that leg just leaps right up. So it's every bit as toxic to us. That word is every bit as toxic to us as aluminum is.
So all those people that run around with aluminum foil on their heads thinking that the aliens won't be able to get them or read their thoughts are really in trouble then.
Right, and the ones that are using it in their deodorant.
Deodorant? Seriously? Now I gotta make my own deodorant. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. Yep. There are those that will just say that it's not true, but when women are shaving under their arms and then putting aluminum into the little bitty, tiny little cuts they're making, that aluminum's traveling in their body. So yeah, I am a huge proponent of the crystal antiperspirants and things like that.
Crystal antiperspirants?
We've gone far afield, huh?
Well, that's kind of my show. We jump all over the place.
Right from God to aluminum deodorant.
Well, hopefully everybody can keep up and is enjoying it. We're getting towards the end because I only have an hour show because I figure Saturdays are pretty full with Mom's show for 2 hours and then Nancy and Colleen for 2 hours and then me for 1. That's 5 hours of listeners staying with us and keeping up and getting all of this knowledge. And by the end of that time, my brain's about ready to just shut down and start thinking and marinating on everything. And I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? We've got 4 or 5 minutes left.
I just say you've been my blessing this evening. I certainly enjoyed it. Thanks, folks, for hanging out with us. And I had my partner go in the bathroom and grab the Crystal Body deodorant spray. I don't have any stock in the company, all natural. Purple label. You can get it at the health food store. I thought it was at Kroger and all, but it's not anymore. But no, if I can ever be of service, holler at me. I'm wishing you all success and in your journey and quest.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of the knowledge, and I'm sure we're going to have you back. I know Mom's going to have you on her show. I can't remember which date you guys came up with, but I think it's in June.
About mid-June, or beginning of June, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, she's really looking forward to it, too, so I'm sure we are definitely going to be hearing more from you.
And we need Lee's website again.
Well, if there's anyone that's interested also, and I do a lot of reading on the phone, via Skype or cell phone. If I can ever be of service, like I said, give the website. It's energyweaver.com. And just get a hold of me and we'll figure something out. I love teaching and sharing and helping people to get more of what they want out of life and less of what they think they're stuck with.
I think I might be getting on with you with the whole numerology thing, and you can give me a full reading. So I'll be getting with you on that.
And just remember, we're only adding numbers together. It's no woo-woo. The woo-woo will sneak in on us, but
well, it feels like woo-woo when you're spot on and you don't know me from Adam, and you everything you said, I'm sure my mom was over there nodding her head. I can't see her from where I'm sitting, but I'm sure she was like, that's my girl.
And what, I'm sorry, what, shh. I'm not going to say that other one either. Annette, can we get your website also?
Sure. Mine is theyearofAnnetteMarie.com. And that's it. So I want to thank everybody for showing up and for sticking with us. I think it's been a great night on here. I think Nora was fabulous, and I'm so glad we're going to be hearing more from her. We had quite a few new people in the chat, which was great, and I think it's a wonderful thing when all people get in there and we've got all of the different knowledge and opinions and questions, and we can all talk about things together. It's just a great experience, at least for me, and I think a lot of everybody else feels the same way. And I want to thank those who work so hard on the station that don't get paid, and they're just volunteering their time and energies because they love it and it means so much to them. So we've got Nancy and Walt and Colleen and Mom and all of the guests that come on. It's just a great time, and it's a great station and a great place to be. And I'm very thankful and appreciative of it. And with all of the different opinions, I can talk about God and Nancy talks about Gaia, and we still find commonalities and ways to pull everything together. And it's just a fabulous thing. And I think that's part of what God wants us to do, is get together and be together and learn together and love together.
Well, I wanted to mention that we today have had listeners from all over the world. Korea, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, France, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, Finland, Romania, Greece, and of course the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is humbling.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
Thanks for sharing that, Colleen.
Glad to. Because I look at this, when we have our shows, I look to see where everyone's from.
I was so afraid of messing up, I did nothing but make sure Skype turned on.
You know what? Sometimes that's the big hurdle.
Uh-huh.
It wanted a password, and I went, oh, no, not now.
I always have to shut it off right before a show because it'll freeze up on me. So I shut down my computer and then come back on, and it seems to be okay so far.
It was great.
So,
Thank you so much, Annette. Thank you, Colleen.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks, Colleen. You're the best.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everybody have an awesome night or day, depending on where you are. And thank you for joining us. That's it. Peace, love, and naughty fun.
Wake up and smile. Wake up and smile.
You've been listening to Annette Marie and the Sassy Show.
Like a whole day. So you could hold me. This child away.
A Haggy Shack radio production. Simulcast over Wolf Spirit Media Network.